if we go scale of 1 to 10, if Georgia's a 10, or if you just want to play the perfection scale and they're a 9.9, where would you put Florida State?
I'd say 7.
Where would you put Michigan?
Just slightly above that. And that's going off of recent history. Like Michigan's got a quarterback coming back, if I remember correctly. They got a good team. They've been recruiting well, but even with all of that, they're not that far ahead of where Florida State is in the totality. A lot of SEC schools. I think Clemson. I would argue not just off of the last 2 seasons, but looking at 4 and up to this point, I would say Clemson is just ahead of Michigan when it comes to that. I'd give you Georgia being 10 because what they've been able to do, you rattle off 2 back-to-back national championships and look like you're trending to possibly play for or compete for a third. You have to be the standard that everybody else measures themselves to. And the only team that's closer to that would be Alabama. But then after that will be your Ohio State. Like if you had to ask me, there's 5 programs that I just believe year in and year out are just going to be tough. It's Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. And really after that, I'd give you Michigan right now and Clemson. But really, those last 2 could cycle with another 2. But I just have to give, those are the people who have consistently done it in both ways. So off the field and you're recruiting and on the field. So to get overly upset for like Florida, I can promise you in the next 3 seasons, Florida's may be doing it off the field, but they're not going to be doing it on the field. Miami, I think, has a better chance to do it both, but I just know that 23 schedule and that 24 schedule is brutal. Like, and at a certain point, top prospects aren't going to want to go somewhere to get, like, some people are going to love the challenge, but most people don't go to these places to lose or to get their head beat in. It's a reason why winners tend to recruit better, and that's why Georgia's having the success that they have.
Yeah, I would agree that Clemson and Michigan are kind of in the same landing spot. They're just arriving from different places. Clemson was with those other 3, and now they've lost 3 games 2 consecutive years. And where Michigan was down more in that 10 to 12 to 15 range, and they've elevated with consecutive Big Ten championships and playoff appearances.
Yeah, and I think that's just, like, I have to give Michigan props. They made the playoffs. They did their thing, and actually everybody thought that they were going to beat TCU and that they would have played Georgia. Yeah, because they've made consecutive playoffs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they got drummed by Georgia the year before, but then last year they were a lot better. And like I said, I want Florida State. They need to eventually. Especially with APR coming into effect here, that hasn't been in play since COVID. You have to do better on the prep side. That being said, with how much they have coming back this year and then what they'll have coming back for 2024, I'm not as concerned because I do believe you could get it done in other ways, and until proven otherwise. I mean, they've done it.
Do you have any idea what Billy Napier is selling? Just because if I look at it from this standpoint, Florida State's starting to show us on the field, as they did last year, that they're on the rise. Miami was a disaster last year on the field. They were even worse than 5-7, but at least they got a coach who's won at another school, at another Power 5 school. So he can say, look at what I did at Oregon. We're building here. But Billy Napier, sure, he was a good coach at Louisiana, but he's never done anything on the Power 5 level. So he's selling hope.
Well, he's also been able to be around one of the best to do it on the field and off the field. He's been around Saban before. And, there's an effect that comes with that most Sabanites have had at least a good first 3 years when it comes to recruiting. And it's the organizational structure, and it's about selling the SEC and selling Florida. To be able to walk into a kid's room or have a kid come in and say, you can go 6-6 and still go top 5 at the University of Florida. Like, that's how good and that's how tough our schedule is. And that's how much we prepare guys for the NFL, even if he didn't really have much to do with it. But I think he's also selling each class that, hey, this is a building block approach. We knew coming in that this was a dumpster fire. We knew even then we still had opportunities to possibly win some games that we shouldn't have, even though we lost some games that we probably shouldn't have. Correct those mistakes. If you can possibly have a 7-8 if they're feeling like, I think it will be lying, but I think some people might be able to look at that schedule and see 7 or 8 wins, and that would be a ceiling. And that is a huge win for them because you're teaching progression and progress. You've got one of the best DB coaches in the nation, in Raymond. You've got a really good offensive line coach. You've got a young DC that really, I pick on him and give him a hard time because he's quirky, but he speaks a language that makes people believe that he knows a lot of what he's talking about. And he had an exciting defense, even though at a G5 school, he still had a really good defense coming out of a G5 school. So these are things that Napier is able to sell, is still selling the future. Now, if you go out there on that field and you're getting drummed, you're not going to be able to sell that. I'll be shocked if they're able to keep everybody. But I do think that they're selling guys for the opportunity to bring back the University of Florida. And they've got a fan base that's rabid and that would love nothing more than that. And they've also got a collective that's a little bit more organized and structured now than it was in the previous.
So I'm going to stay on the same theme, but apply it to Florida State. In that, I got to think that there's an interesting recruiting angle to make here, because Florida State has shown through the decades, thanks to Bobby Bowden, that they can reach the heights of college football. So you can win a national championship at Florida State. And you can only say that about 8 or 10 schools. You can win a national championship regardless of what it's looked like the last 5 years. If you go to Georgia, let's say, or you'd say the same thing about Alabama 3-4 years ago, that's great. You're going to go there. You're probably going to leave with a ring or two, but are you going to do anything special? Are you going to just be on the conveyor belt and just be another guy? And that's a great place to be. Hey, I won 2 national championships and I'm a first or second round pick in the NFL draft. Nothing wrong with that. But are you going to be remembered for doing something special? And then you got this other set of schools that has never proven anything, where Florida State's kind of in this exciting place where this is our history. This is what we've accomplished. We've proven this, and we're not there yet. We're not Alabama or Georgia, but you could be part of something special. You could be part of exactly what you were saying about Florida, bringing us back. Plus, we've got this over Florida. We've already shown that we're close. We're getting there. They haven't proven anything yet. They might be 6-win bad for the next 3 years while you're there grinding it out. Whereas we're showing that we're on the cusp, but you could be part of that.
I think it all comes down to the head coach. And I've gotten the chance to know Mike Norvell pretty well over the past few years. He's been there. And I'll use this example to probably shed some light on the mentality of it. I'm actually going to send you the video to I haven't posted it, but I want you to. My son sees on YouTube LSU have these air conditioned helmets. Talks to his mother. He's like, I'm concerned that they have an advantage. I'm going to talk to Coach Norvell about this. His mom says, you know Mike Norvell? He's like, I can have that conversation. And he's right. My son can have that conversation with Mike Norvell because Mike Norvell knows him. Now, I tweet this. Mike sees it. Mike has his youth football camp that my son attended on Monday. He comes out and he pulls me and says, you're going to ask me that question. And he was like, well, I just want to let you know that we have air-conditioned helmets. We've been had air-conditioned helmets. We just don't feel the need to have to tell the whole world what we got going on. So what is that in mindset? I think Mike isn't as confident as he is. He's not as braggadocious as he is, and he doesn't have not a story, but he doesn't have a caricature that the national media has picked up. Much like Bobby. Bobby had a confidence, but Bobby also had that all shucks, Jesus walks and wept and all that other kind of things that you can buy into, that they would put on things consistently. So Mike needs to win, because that's what Mike is a winner. And he's not a winner by telling you I'm a winner. He's a winner by doing. So how does that hurt you in recruiting a little bit? Your mentality when you walk into a room is, here's what we've done. Here's what we're going to do. You're either going to be a part of it or you're not. Doesn't really work in the high school recruiting where you're the pretty girl at prom and everybody wants you. But you know where that really sells and where that works? When you've already been recruited, you've already been the pretty girl, and you found out that the dude wasn't ish. That works better in the transfer portal. That's why he's been able to get top guys to be able to come in, because there's no fluff, there's no BS. It's literally, you either going to buy in or you're not. Whereas in high school, you got to win over mom, you got to win over the guy who's been the mentor, who's been over in his life, and you got to do some things. And I think the better athletes like it, but he still doesn't have enough on his resume to consistently beat out Kirby, Saban. You know, you do another 10 plus win season. Now that works a little bit better. Whereas Saban's, because there's only a couple approaches that you can use. And some of the negative recruiting that people are using is his success in the transfer portal. They're just going to recruit over you once you get there. They're just going to do this. But one thing that I know Saban and Kirby are both using, it doesn't matter how many 5-stars we bring in. If I'm recruiting you, I think you can play. And so that resonates with guys who are elite. Then there's the, why go play? Anybody can win when they got all the best players. Why not come here and let's go beat those guys? There's some that resonates with. But then there's some guys who could just literally just say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and I can show you. And I think that's what Mike's doing, is just something that's going to take a little bit more time to catch on as he continues to win. And really, as our rivals, if they don't continue to win, he keeps dominating them, the sales pitch is going to be a little bit easier, and you're going to see more prep prospects come that way.